All right, excellent, everyone. We have Jaya on screen, and I realized I had my mic on there while I was troubleshooting. I hope that I can't hear you or see everyone else, but I hope that the morning has been interesting to you all too. All right, so welcome, Jaya. Thank you for bearing with us this morning. And just a quick reminder to everyone, we'll have some meditation, and we'll have a talk for Dharma talk first, short one, and a meditation. And then we have time for Q&A. And if you would like to come on screen to dialogue with Jaya, you can. There's a raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or you can just type your question in the chat. And if you don't know already, all of these sessions are run on the Buddhist principle of dana. So that means you're very welcome to show up and be present with all of us this week. And at the same time, we also rely on donations to keep this whole machine running, and your financial contributions also support Jaya's work to continue to spread the Dharma. So we're very grateful for whatever you can offer, and if you cannot offer today, that is also totally fine, and you're welcome to be with us. The link to donate is sangha.live/donate. All right, thank you, everyone, and I'll hand over to Jaya now.
Oops. Okay. Thank you, Faith, and thank you, everybody, for your patience. And as you could probably hear then in the backstage, the technical issues were partly Jaya issues also. So apologies to you all, but I think we'll be fine, hopefully tomorrow and the following day. So we've been practicing this week. We are practicing this week with the 5 elements, contemplating the 5 elements and ways that we can bring those into our meditative practice. And today is the turn of the fire element. And of course, I didn't know when I planned this topic quite how prominent the fire element would be in the news, certainly here in Europe. And if there's anyone who watches these sessions in the Western US, for example, they'll say, well, that it's been pretty prominent with us at times and doesn't always get the press attention over here that it might merit. So with all these elements, actually, it's a stark reminder to hold them in respect. Actually, this is one of the aspects of these mighty forces of nature, is how powerful they are. So both a recognition of how powerful they are and also of our interdependence with them. So again, as with the water element and the earth element, there are different ways of bringing this to mind, different ways of imagining it. And we have to be discerning and selective of what's appropriate in what context and what's meant by, say, the Buddha's invitation to develop a meditation that's like fire, that doesn't kind of pick and choose among things and doesn't take things personally. So these great forces of nature, unlike us, don't bring with them a comparing mind or a judging mind or a sense of pride, the conceit that we talk about in Dharma terms, which includes the conceit, the superiority conceit. It includes inferiority conceit. So that whole sense of creating a painful separate self that we do in so many different ways. The elements of nature don't do this. And so we can take some inspiration from that, to let our mind take on some of these qualities of vastness, of spaciousness, of capacity with these elements of nature. And also in terms of meditating on the body, to reflect on how the body is constituted of all these non-Jaya elements, or these non-personal elements, and that we are a coming together of elements that comes together for a certain amount of time, and with that arises our whole story and our world and our sense of self. And these elements need replenishing throughout our lives also, so we remain deeply connected with the manifestations of the elements around us. And at a certain time, they disperse again. And this is the way it is. So, yeah, I find that meditating with the elements in the body can be a very calming, grounding activity, a way of inhabiting, one of the many possible ways of inhabiting our body with more awareness and more skillfulness. And to meditate on the qualities within the mind. We've also been thinking this week about the kind of heart qualities, if you like, that we might associate with particular elements. So the earth element, groundedness, patience, steadiness, reliability. The water element, maybe flow, fluidity, flexibility, tranquility. And with the fire element, I think there are different qualities of fieriness or temperature, warmth. So fire stands for everything that is to do with temperature and coolness. So yeah, heat and cool are all properties with the fire element, by its increase or diminishing. Also, the energy of digestion and things like that are considered part of the fire element. So, so we can think of fire in terms of warmth. And when I think of the fire element, I think of warmth and warm-heartedness. So that sense of, one of my favorite ways of practicing metta, or bringing the flavor of metta into practice, and some of you may have heard or done this with me before, is to actually invite a smile and drop the smile as if you were dropping a kind of warm spark down into the heart center or into our center, wherever we feel that, and just starting to let that radiate. It's like you drop a smile down into your belly almost. And that sense of, so some of us who relate to igniting things in a very somatic way might appreciate that, but in whatever way we'd sense metta, the cultivation of kindness, as a radiating of warmth from our being out into the world. So this is one way that we can play with fire element. Another, at the other end of the spectrum, the quality of ardency, or ardor or ardency, which is found again in lots of practice instructions, including the teachings on mindfulness. One's invited to practice with ardency. And ardency, of course, ardency comes from the word that means fire. It literally means to burn in Latin. So, yeah, to be passionate and fiery about our practice. And that also puts me in mind of the quality of samvega. Samvega means spiritual urgency. And in a way that brings me full circle to the fire, as mentioned just at the beginning of what I've been saying, that when we see how rapidly changing, rapidly unraveling in many ways our world is, and the precariousness of human life, we can kind of run from it in fear, or we can kind of wake up more to the preciousness of it. I don't even mean kind of. We can wake up more to the preciousness of it. And there's a certain way in which the unpredictability of life at the moment is actually fueling my enthusiasm for practice. I don't know whether that's true for you. There are ways in which we can turn difficult circumstances sometimes into an advantage. That actually recognizing the preciousness of the time that we have and the time that we have now. How are we going to live that most fully, most skillfully? How are we going to participate most skillfully? Yeah. Okay, so it's meditation time. Let's settle into our posture. If that's too many words for 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever time it is with you, just take a deep breath, let them go. Trusting that anything that's been useful will be retained, will come back to you at some point later in the day or when it's needed. So as we take our seats or whatever position we use for our meditation, it's both a sense of resting into something very familiar to many of us. And familiarity means, oh yeah, I can rest. Now my body knows it's meditation time. And at the same time, every time we could arrive there as if for the first time. So not taking this moment's experience for granted. What's it like to receive the sense impressions of this moment as if for the first time? Where exactly are you in contact with ground? And what is the sensation? What are the sensations? What is the overall felt sense of your body resting on the ground or on whatever it's resting on? And as we bring our attention to the experience of body resting on earth, breathing, we can be aware of the presence of the earth element, of body as earth resting on earth. So sensing the earthy texture of the body, giving it shape and form and structure. So there's no need to try too hard to do this. Allowing a gentle curiosity, and whatever we sense or feel is okay. There's nothing to get right in these contemplations. We might also have a sense of the softness of the body and a presence felt or recognized, acknowledged of the water element in the body. So actually sensed in the mouth perhaps, but present through the whole body, mingled with the earth element. Earth element, naturally, the earth element and the water element naturally flow downwards, are drawn to rest. They know how to relax. So let them rest, relax the body for us. the water element can soften, can soothe, can bathe the earth element. Helping any tightness and tension in the body to release. And we can begin to notice also the fire element, the different shades of warmth through the body. Maybe taking a couple of minutes to scan through the body from the tips of the toes to the crown of the head, from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes, and just notice the different areas of warmth and coolness. Becoming aware of the way that the fire element is also dispersed through the body, pervades the whole body. The warmth too can soften areas of tightness. If there are areas that are too warm, then maybe inviting some water element to balance. Coming back to the perception of the water element. It cools and balances fire. And you might bring your attention up to the face, and particularly to the eyes. And if your eyes are closed, sensing how there's still a brightness there, a perception of light. Perceiving light is one of the ways of countering sleepiness. One senses or feels light even through one's closed eyes. And you could let that light start to warm the face and offer yourself a gentle smile. A fake one is fine. And just feel its effects. The muscles of the face, the throat, and the chest. Feel its effect on your energy levels. And you could imagine that smile like a ball of warm energy, of warm, fiery energy, just dropping down through the throat, down into the chest, to the heart center. Maybe it drops down into the belly center also. And as the body breathes, the movement of the breath just massages that warmth in the heart center, lets it spread through the whole body. Your whole meditation becomes suffused with a sense of warm-heartedness. Noticing how the mind also can take on that energy of warm-heartedness. And let yourself rest in that. So whatever sensations or thoughts arise, the impulses, can they land in a space of warm-heartedness? So finding steadiness and balance in the midst of the flow of your experience. It's more helpful to come back to the earth element and that sense of contact with the ground underneath us. To the water element, or indeed just to rest with the breath and choosing what's most supportive for you right now, but allowing the whole enterprise to be suffused with this warm-heartedness. noticing when the attention has got lost inside a thought, as if it's shrunk into the thought, and just allowing it to expand again to include the felt sense of the body, resting, breathing, and these elements mingling within it. We don't have to get rid of the thought or defend against them, but just allow the mind to be far more spacious than that. You take on this vastness of the earth, of water, of fire, in which the different experiences, sensations, feelings, thoughts come and go. But the earth and the water and the fire are not disturbed. And just checking how the energy levels are right now. Is it time to invite a little bit more fieriness, a little bit more ardor? Or is it time to invite a little bit more calm? It's making these last few minutes of practice together really, really count. Making them really beneficial for yourself, a gift to yourself. Thank you, friends, for your practice. So I just woken up my chat bar and wondering whether anyone has any questions this morning. Thanks, Eleanor. Yes, I can invite some more fire. I was reflecting a little at the end of my meditation about what it feels like to be fired up about things, and remembering with some nostalgia. I just recently went on a visit to Chithurst Buddhist Monastery, which I haven't been to for a few years. those of you who don't know it and who are in the UK, it's a lovely place to go, where Ajahn Sucitto was the abbot for many years, and it's one of the places I lived as a nun. But I went. Was the first Dharma place I ever visited. It was the first place I ever sat in meditation, and where I heard the first Dharma talk that I ever heard 39 years ago. Do I mean 30? Yeah, I do mean 39 years ago. And it was really life-changing for me. And just remembering some of the excitement and enthusiasm that arose in that at the beginning of my practice. And it's not that it's not there now. It definitely comes and goes a lot. And there are times right now where I feel also fired up by practice. But one can mentally take oneself back to these experiences of feeling fired up when it's useful, feeling that connection and excitement and energy that gives us. So we could there are ways of getting fired up. We could get fired up with anger, which obviously is not, or is an energy that needs to be curated with a lot of care. Sometimes the energy of anger is what's needed in response to a situation. But can we do that in a skillful way? Is often difficult because it's often so mixed up with other things. The relationship between fire and anger. Thought that would spark something. So yeah, anger's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we are often told that anger is an unwholesome, unskillful quality. And I think anger is a very dangerous quality, and is usually, or is always bound up with some sense of protest, and that is often there's often a degree of hurt and ill will and desire for punishing or desire for vengeance that arises with it. And those are strong words, and maybe not everything is that strong end of the spectrum, but we really need to examine very carefully what's going on when that anger arises. And there are situations in which anger is, or the energy of anger is needed to set a boundary or to say no, or to actually, set a limit either for ourselves or others about what's acceptable or unacceptable. But it's also, anger is not a pleasant thing to experience. It's not comfortable. So how can we kind of set our boundaries without getting so wound up about things? It's an interesting thing. An interesting thing for me is to contemplate the relationship between anger and fear. One of the aspirations that I have, that I think Dharma speaks to, is to become fearless. And how would fearlessness change our propensity to get angry, to get reactive? And how would it actually empower us to act with energy, with decision, with firmness, without that kind of toxic dimension of anger? I think, Lizzie, I appreciate that anger and tears, interesting combo, an interesting combination. And there's a lot in those experiences, a lot to investigate, a lot of self-compassion needed, because yeah, we are vulnerable hearts and minds, and prone to be hurt. And I think actually it's quite healthy to be able to, as we were saying yesterday, to let the tears come, and actually that's a sort of an acknowledgement of our vulnerability that's very healthy. So I was reading Michael's comment. It's amazing how nature springs back even after the apparent devastation of an all-consuming forest fire. The destruction wrought by fire brings rebirth and life. Is that the case for us too? Very nice contemplation. We can look back on life and see where after something that's been immensely difficult or a really challenging period, something new emerges. And maybe that's a really important thing to remember in the moments when life is difficult. The moments when life is particularly painful. And maybe just one last thought, because we hear that one of the things that enables life to spring back after a period of devastation is its connectedness, its ability to take in nourishment for itself. So the seeds that are, remaining underground, or the roots of the trees that tops have burned off, are able to replenish themselves from the soil, from the water, from the air around. So there's something about our permeability and our connectedness that enables us to spring back after life has dealt us blows. Yeah. And so I really appreciate that, somewhere like this, and the connection that you all bring and the support that you all offer each other by being part of this community actually is an example of that. The way that we don't thrive in isolation, we thrive in connection. Good. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you for your wonderful comments. And if you have time to stay and use the chat, that's beautiful. And I hope to see you tomorrow morning. And I will we will collectively endeavour to overcome the tech challenges and start on time tomorrow morning. So I wish you a very good day with the right balance of earthliness, wateryness, and fieriness. Go well.